Good afternoon, I'm Sean Yao, and this is One News Now. A new low-pressure area is expected to enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility today. Pag-asa last spotted the LPA some 1,070 kilometers east of northeastern Mindanao. This weather disturbance could develop into a tropical cyclone in the next few days. The most recent storm, Dodong, has already left the Philippines over the weekend and is now moving towards southern China. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon or habagat will continue to trigger rains in several parts of the country, particularly in Zambales, Bataan, and Occidental Mindoro. Metro Manila and other parts of the country could also experience rain showers this week due to the combined effects of habagat and localized thunderstorms.
Ngayong araw, inaasahan pa natin ang pag-ulan, partikular na nga sa may kanlurang bahagi ho ng Luzon, kasama dyan yung Ilocos Region, partikular na sa Bataan, Zambales area, at gayon din ho sa iba pang bahagi ng Central Luzon, Mimaropa, Calabarzon, at gayon din ho dito sa Maynilad, makararanas pa rin ho ng mga pag-ulan, pero may hinat, significantly ho, mababawasan na yung mga pag-ulan.
Meanwhile, Maynilad has suspended water service interruptions in several parts of Metro Manila, at least for now. These areas include portions of Caloocan, Malabon, Manila, Navotas, Quezon City, and Valenzuela. The water concessionaire said recent rains have increased the water level in the Ipo Dam, which apart from Angat, is a reservoir of Maynilad. Meanwhile, Maynilad is planning to reactivate some 60 deep wells around Metro Manila and Cavite. This is to help ensure steady water supply, especially during the height of El Nino. The project is expected to supply water requirements of at least 175,000 customers. And speaking of dams, the water level in Angat is back at the minimum operating level. Angat's water level rose to 180 meters thanks to the monsoon rains over the past days. From 179.06 meters on Sunday, it went up to 180 meters today. Pag-asa also reported that all reservoirs, except for the Binga Dam in Benguet, have seen an increase in water levels. Nevertheless, the National Water Resources Board said that Metro Manila and neighboring provinces are not out of the woods just yet. And that's because Angat should have reserves that are way above the minimum operating level of 180 meters to sustain enough water supply.
So, ibig sabihin, pagka umangat na siya, ay kailangan ibalik, pwede na siyang ibalik, no? Ang tinitingnan po natin kasi, kung umangat man yan, ano po ang magiging estado nito kapag pumasok na po yung pagdating ng mga El Nino. Kaya gusto sana talaga natin ay umangat. Kasi po, ang normal high water level po niya is mga 212.
We're gonna pause for a quick break, but One News Now will be back with more stories after that. Stay with us. governance slogan. Malacanang said the branding is reflective of the regime's plan for inclusivity and social transformation. The logo for Bagong Pilipinas features a stylized Philippine flag with overlays of famous landmarks. Government agencies are required to adopt the new brand and incorporate the logo in official documents. This is the most recent change under the Marcos administration, following the controversial revision of logos of the Tourism Department and PAGCOR. Meanwhile, a Kabataan party list is hoping that the Bagong Pilipinas campaign will not end up as a failure amid different scams in government. And for the kilusang magbubukid ng Pilipinas, pro-people reforms and not mere rebranding are what the country needs to address economic challenges. Anak Bayan likewise slammed the new governance bid, claiming that it will not conceal the stench of the administration. Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. Air travelers heading overseas are again required to take off their shoes for security inspection at the NAIA. This is part of the enhanced security arrangement at all terminals in the country's main gateway. The rule was first implemented back in December of 2001 after a terrorist attempted to detonate a homemade bomb hidden in his shoes. The health department is reminding Filipinos to limit their intake of ultra-processed food and beverages. This is on the back of the World Health Organization's scrutiny of aspartame, a sweetener and sugar substitute that supposedly causes cancer when consumed in large quantities. The Philippine Food and Drug Administration will issue an advisory to explain the food safety code in relation to the matter. Senate President Mig Zubiri has reiterated the upper chamber's commitment to push for an across-the-board wage hike by way of legislation. Zubiri said he stands firm on the proposed measure for a 150 peso nationwide salary increase, noting that several businessmen support the move. Recall that the NCR Wage Board recently approved a daily minimum wage hike of 40 pesos, which took effect on July 16. And at some point in their lives, every worker has experienced burnout. And this is why several companies have rolled out trackers to gauge their employees' well-being. Find out how they do it in this Bloomberg Quick Take.
Burnout. You've heard about it spoken many times in the workforce when employees feel they're at their breaking point. Companies want to do something about it. But what? Research firm Deloitte and Workplace Intelligence says tracking employee wellness data could help. Their study showed 85% of C-suite executives think that organizations need to require mandatory reporting of well-being metrics.
You can gauge workforce sentiment with surveys and interviews and focus groups with your workforce, but you can also look at observable proxies. So, for example, the percentage of workers that are using their time off, the amount of overtime people put in, the volume of work-related emails that get sent after hours. You could look at attrition rates. You could look at analyzing insurance and claims.
While executives feel this type of data is important, only half of those surveyed think their own companies are doing enough to promote transparency. On top of that, Fisher says there's also a disconnect between what executives and employees feel their companies are doing to track worker well-being.
There is an ongoing lack of transparency and trust with the workforce and leadership. And there's a number of reasons for that. It doesn't mean that the C-suite is ill-intended. I think that they are well-intended. It's just that these types of things are hard to communicate.
The Securities and Exchange Commission sees the benefit to the metrics. The regulator wants to require public companies to disclose what it calls human capital information, a worker's economic value, that could include workforce health.
Investors are sort of starting to see human capital as an essential component in creating long-term shareholder value, which makes sense, right? Because when you have a fulfilled workforce, you probably have a more productive company. So you're sort of seeing companies interpret what human capital is on their own.
Many firms say the information will serve as an important tool to recruit and retain talent, as it shows how the company places a strong emphasis on wellness.
One News Now will be back at 3:15 p.m. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.